Welcome to the Voice of Retail podcast. My name is Michael LeBlanc, and I am your host. This podcast is produced in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. In this episode of the Voice of Retail, I reconnect with Emma May, the force of nature that is the founder of SophieGrace, to explore how she built a purpose-driven fashion brand, empowering professional women across North America. Emma shares her journey from law and politics to launching a modular machine-washable clothing line and dives into the growth strategy, customer-centric community building, and the impact of new U.S. tariffs on her U.S. expansion plans. We also explore the rising trend of in-person experiences and a potential European debut for SophieGrace. Emma, welcome back to the Voice of Retail podcast. So great to hear your voice. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks. I mean, we're in some crazy times, but we're going to talk about it. We're going with the flow, man.
Where am I finding you this morning? Are you in Calgary? Are you in Vancouver? Are you in LA? Where are you?
I am in Calgary right now. Actually, I just was downtown looking at a new space that we're looking at pulling together in the core.
Fantastic. Exciting. Yeah. Exciting times for Calgary, right? I mean, go west. It's a big booming province, right?
It is a big booming province. And we have people are back in the office downtown. So we're kind of excited about that and getting into that mix a bit more, right?
Yeah, it's right in your sweet spot for a whole bunch of reasons. All right. So as the listeners could probably tell, you and I know each other and you've been on the pod before, but in case anybody missed our first chitting and chatting, probably, a couple of years ago, maybe. Tell us who you are and what you do for a living. What's your backstory and what's your favorite color?
Well, I'm wearing cobalt blue, so maybe that is. Although I think it is pink. I am the founder of SophieGrace, and SophieGrace is a womenswear line that focuses on professional women. And what we do is we build really comfortable, beautiful modular pieces. So I try to make suiting really comfortable and easy to pull together for a professional woman. So everything sort of mixes and matches and goes together really well and just feels amazing. And washability is a big part of our program as well. So right now, everything that we do is machine washable, which is kind of cool.
Fantastic. Now you sound like a merchant, but you didn't start out as a merchant. You got a varied background in everything from law to consulting to politics. Tell everybody a bit of your origin story.
Yeah. So I started out in law. I became a lawyer at like 28. I articled out in Vancouver at Ferris LLP. Spent 10 years sort of doing law when my kids were young. Mm-hmm. And after a bit of that, I decided to make the move into real estate because that worked better for for being a mom at the time. And then I founded a real estate brokerage here in Calgary called Charles Real Estate. And that's still a going concern, doing pretty well. And then there was a flood here. So I became a community activist. And that, led me into working for the former Premier of Alberta, Jim Prentice. So I was executive director of the Premier's office for a period of time, and then went back into real estate for a bit, and then sort of had a mini meltdown in my closet one day when I had to go to a board meeting, and I was like, "Why does nobody make anything modular? This is what I want." Blah blah.
Did you actually say that? Did you say modular?
Yes, I did. Yes, because I was standing in my closet. I was like, I had all these random pieces and nothing kind of went together. And I was like, I just want like an ivory blouse and an ivory pencil skirt that goes together. And if I want to wear the blazer, I want that to match too. And it kind of was born out of that. I had And then I just sort of took it a step further. Right. Like, and thought, well, what are these pieces that I really would want? And how do I make that morning decision-making process really simple and streamlined for professional women, so they don't have to overthink it. Get rid of all the executive decision fatigue, right? Like, let's just make something really easy that she grabs and goes and knows that she's going to look good. So that was actually kind of how it came about. And I also had been that woman, right? Like in all of these other renditions of my life. And I'd worked with her. She was, she's my best friend from law school. She's the woman that I articled with. She was my counterpart in the Premier's office.
So you more than just had like an epiphany of why doesn't somebody do this? I mean, lots of people have that epiphany. You took it, you said, a little bit farther. You took it a whole lot farther. You started SophieGrace. And
Yeah.
you had no background, and I remember our first conversation. It's both a plus and a minus to have no background in apparel because you approach it with such a genuine enthusiasm. Not held back by the parameters of history or experience or how it should work. But
Right.
let's talk about SophieGrace for a bit. So, give us scope, scale. You've told us a little bit about who it's designed to do, but how many stores do you have? Do you go online? Do you trade? Where do you trade? Just give us ground us in some of the realities of the expansiveness of the business.
Yeah, so we now sell all over North America. We'll talk a bit about limitations on that are coming forward, but we do, and we've got some customers in Europe as well. We've got 2 showrooms. One is in Vancouver and one is in Calgary. And then my hope is this year we start expanding out to Toronto and then Montreal. But most of our sales happen online. And our showrooms are really structured so that it's like, come on in, try the product out, get your size, feel the fabrics, touch and feel I'm really nerdy about that. I really need people to love the sensation of the fabric against their skin. And that's something that we really, really focus on. So that in-person experience is something that we want to start expanding on a bit more this year. We've kept it limited, but yeah, it's been great. Our customers are incredible. Like they range from, political leaders all over North America to CEOs, partners at big, every big law firm in the country, banks. They're really rock stars, right? Like our customers are rock stars. I can say senior levels of government across North America, we've got customers in. We've got customers running banks. We've got
so she is a professional, and
she's a professional, and she is
like
a rock
yourself,
star.
and she's what kind of price points are you talking? Why aren't they shopping at Holtz? Why are they shopping with you, for example?
We range from I guess 200 or 195 for some pants and skirts, and then some of our blazers are coming in at about 300.
It's very approachable, right? That's a very approachable price point.
And
right?
then our new silk stuff, the blouses are about 300 each. So they're a little more on the expensive side, but they're, it's a stretch silk that is machine washable, and it just feels like unbelievably luxurious, and it's just got the most beautiful drape and blah, blah, blah. So, she is coming to us. I think she does. She might shop at Holtz a bit, but she finds Holtz a bit overwhelming sometimes, right? Like it can be. I mean, I guess Theory would be our nearest competitor in that space.
And maybe she doesn't. Maybe she doesn't want to be wearing Gucci when she's presenting a case in front of a judge,
exactly,
right? Kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. Okay. And so we have, we'll have. We've had, prosecutors come in for 6-week trials and just buy 4 pairs of the black pants and blazers and stuff that they know they can just cycle
sets
through.
The right tone, sets the right professional tone, sets everything. Now, when you call them showrooms, do people walk out with the goods, or is it like an Indochino where you kind of set them later? Or
in Vancouver, they walk out with the goods. In Calgary, they generally do not, but we, can literally get stuff to them within 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's usually it's a quick turnaround. Then our goal, obviously, going forward, is to really shorten that process.
Right. Now, I want to spend some time on how you grew the business, because I think there's a masterclass here in the making, because you really have developed, in my mind, such a strong community. You've already talked about, going from different cities to different countries. Now, talk about this mix of social media, physical pop-ups in different cities, developing this community. How do people, a long way of saying, okay, you got business in the States. Well, how they find you? Is there word of mouth? Talk about how you built your community and how you built your growth.
We started really here in Calgary with incredible community support from peers and customers. And I think what's happened is that in many ways, obviously we do meta ads, and we do all the, traditional digital marketing stuff. But what happened sort of early on was people were like, oh, I really like this. I need to share it with my community. And so, one of our first events that we had was a senior partner who was like a managing partner at a law firm came to me and she said, I love your product. How do you feel about doing an event with us where we actually buy gift certificates for our clients who are women, and we do like a whole shopping party with them, and we get wine and cheese and we bring them in. And she was like, we're doing all these like client entertainment events for men. We're doing all these like golf outings. We're doing all this stuff. And she's like, we've never done something for our female clients. And we're like, yeah, let's do that. And that was just this incredible sort of starting point opportunity where we went in and we met a ton more women, and they became, huge brand ambassadors for us. And then we started replicating that, right? So like here in Calgary, especially, and then as we move this out, when we do events, it's really often driven by our customers. They're the ones coming to us and saying, hey, I run a wealth management thing. I really want to bring some of my friends in, and let's do like a wine and cheese thing, or let's do a coffee party. Or, you know what, I want to do a fundraiser for this cause that's really, important to me. Could you guys donate like 10% of sales from an event to this? And we're like, yeah, 100%. So a lot of that community building has actually been, I'm very lucky because it's been driven by our customers' passion for us. Like we have this incredible repeat customer rate. Like once she's sort of in our ecosystem, she really stays in our ecosystem. And that's because
is some of that I want to support a great indie retailer, or is some of that you just nailed it with the product? Like talk about that. What do you think? What do you think's driving that?
Oh, I think honestly, at the end of the day, it's always product driven, right? Like you get the first event, right? Because they want to support you. You don't get the second and third,
right?
Unless you have product that stands up, and we have product that excels and meets the standard that our customers are looking for, like over and over again. And so we're really lucky with that. Not lucky, but we work hard on product excellence.
Yeah, the harder you work, the luckier you get, right?
Yeah, totally. And we work on really trying to listen to our customer. And, it's this weird balance, obviously, in fashion and retail about, okay, what does my customer want? But also, how do I also show my customer what she wants?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so really navigating that space, and also looking at things like we look at, okay, well, this is something that's in fashion right now. How do we take that and then see it through the lens of our brand and our customer, right? So how do we make this trend, let's say, work appropriate? Or how do we make this sort of fit into the workplace or work for the kind of woman that we are dressing, right? So it's like,
interpret it into the context, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like let's say like a sweetheart neckline was in. It's like, okay, well, how do we do that in a way that it's not too revealing for the office, right?
Right.
How do
in a professional setting? Yeah.
Exactly, right? Like how do we bring that forward? So. Yeah,
in an ordinary conversation, whatever that means for my podcast, I really wouldn't be talking to a merchant about where they supply or where they source their goods. But now it's unfortunately a relevant question. Totally. I remember you reached out and said, "Hey, do you know any Canadian? I'd like to mostly make your own stuff, right? That's one thing you haven't said is you're not reselling other brands, right?
No, it's no white label stuff. We design everything to meet our standards. Yeah.
So which sends you on a journey. Okay, where am I going to make it? How do I get it made? And you started. You might have started, as many would, locally in Canada, and then you found yourself somewhere else. Talk about where your product made and what that journey was like.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I actually started in China. With a manufacturer in China. My head of product is incredible, Lisa, and she came to me from Lululemon and the Gap. So she had been used to working, and that was something that was, when I started this, Michael, I was like, no, I want to build a brand. I don't want to just, fuck around. I want to, like, if I'm going to do this, we're going to go for it. And so I wanted it to be something that was scalable, right? So we started in China, and then it became, I was like, if I can onshore some of this, I'd really, really like to. For all
Why?
the reasons that everybody wants to onshore, right? Just because you're like, it would be nice to be able to do some more locally. It also was nice, just the way we work with sort of select fabrics, right? So we can import the fabric and have it in the factory and then cut into the styles that we are selling more or less of, right? And as things go. So when we had it sort of more local, we had a lot more flexibility around that, like being able to say, oh, you know what, this style is doing really well, let's make more. And then we could get into it literally within like 2 to 3 weeks, right? As opposed to if you're offshore. So we did end up finding a factory in the Vancouver area that was able to do a lot of sort of our pants and skirts and tops and things. They weren't able to do the silk, and they weren't able to do sort of the more detailed tailoring that goes into blazers. So we'd always kept that with our Chinese suppliers, just because the level of experience with that kind of product, especially like silk, like if you don't have the machines and you're not used to working on it, like it's just not. There's too much wastage. It's not gonna go well. So we did bring it back, and we worked for 2 years with them. Unfortunately, the woman who ran that factory passed away last year, and there was no succession plan. And, a lot of her employees were, older immigrant women who kind of did it to like visit with their friends, it was less of a huge career thing for them. And so nobody picked it up. And actually that last year was really difficult because, they'd cut a lot of our product and hadn't sewn it. And so last year I lost, really all of our summer, newness for about 7 to 8 months, which was tough. Right. And then I went actually out to the market to my customers and raised some money, which allowed me to place a bigger order for our fall run back with our Chinese supplier. So that's where we've been since then. And we have a great working relationship with them, and they supply, major brands, Alexander McQueen, Acne, like they know what they're doing, and we've enjoyed working with them.
I hear the same, that part about I enjoy working with them. Very professional, great at what they do. I'm talking about China-based manufacturers, particularly in apparel, great at what they do. Now, you had and were growing your U.S. business, so let's get into that a little bit. Part of your growth plan was to grow outside of, Canada's a small country, right? So you've got great markets south of the border, but now we have this Trump tariff thing with these huge tariffs, and maybe or maybe not the end of, we certainly have the end of de minimis coming up with Chinese manufactured goods. How are you thinking about going forward and growth, and what's in your head today, and how are you dealing with all this stuff?
Well, I mean, getting rid of de minimis we saw that one coming. So, let's back up. The U.S. market is insane. She is traditionally been the strongest consumer on the face of the planet, right? So if you are in any kind of retail environment, you are going to want to service that customer.
Yeah. Timex, she's the Timex watch of shoppers, right? Takes a lick and keeps on ticking. I mean, no matter what gets thrown at the U.S. female customer, she keeps going. Just a driver of the economy, right?
Really a driver of the economy. And, and we're solving the same problem for that woman in the States as we're solving for her in Canada, right? Like she doesn't have a different set of problems at all. In fact, they've been much more pushing towards return to office than here in Canada, right? Like you hear JP Morgan, all of these guys, like federal government, everybody's back into the office. So that really
from a retail perspective, they'd have Neiman's, they'd have more Saks, they'd have Nordstrom, and they weren't finding what they needed there, right?
Well, this is the other thing with my customer though, right, Michael? She doesn't really love to shop, and she doesn't have a ton of time to do it. Right. And so this is why we try to do things like we end up sort of in her face in environments where, like through connections, through, other people, if she's online later at night, right? Like this is where we find our customers. she really does not like the shopping experience and does not want to go down and search through a giant department store to find something that works for her. And so when she comes to us online, she knows that we are focused on serving her, focused on solving her problem, and that, you know, when she buys this from us, it's going to work. And then the blazer is going to go with the pant, and she can then pick up the skirt later on. And then we drop a new style that goes with the blazer that she already has. Right. So it really sort of services her in a way that makes her life easy, not just not just the product itself, but we also try to make that shopping experience for her really seamless and easy. And so she probably does have a ton of choice, but I don't think there was a ton of people who were offering this customer the specific kind of offerings that we were offering her. Right. And so she ended up finding us. And obviously we advertised to her, but like there was lots of word of mouth, and we managed to capture. And actually it was interesting because some of our fabrics were heavier, and I was like, we were getting orders from Texas and Alabama, and I was like, oh, isn't it hot there? And then, you know, they were like, yeah, but we sit in air-conditioned offices.
We live in air conditioning.
They're like,
we wear sweaters all day long because it's freezing.
They're like, it's absolutely freezing, and your stuff works beautifully here for us. I'm like, oh, okay, right. Like, so you have sort of these interesting learnings as you go through that process. So when we were looking at it from a market perspective, we were like, 100%, we need to go after this customer. And I have American friends who are professional friends. We did a pop-up in Soho. We've got like customers in New York. We've got, you know, and then I went down to LA and was building relationships, especially with sort of stylists, right? You know, so there's anchors on CNN who wear us and on ESPN. Yeah, that's big there, right? Yeah, right. And so we were developing those relationships, and actually we're about to sign some partnerships. And then the de minimis thing happened, which, and you know what? I get what's happened to de minimis, right? Like I get the abuse that's happened there. Unlike, you know, other people who use it, we actually, you know, we bring our stuff in and we pay the import duties here in Canada. We pay the 18%, right? And then we were able to ship to US customers if the order was under $800 duty free. But that doesn't mean that we were evading duties, right? Like we were paying, we'd already sort of paid our duty. We just paid it in Canada. Yeah. So, but I understand, you know, that everything sort of small packet coming from China was just, you know, really duty evasion and was the problem. Yep. So part of what I was looking at when I was going down there was just saying, okay, well, let's just bring our US customer, like US distribution, then we'll just import directly into the US, our US bound inventory, and then, you know, ship it to the US customer from there. But now that we are unable to make a determination as to what that import duty is going to be, you know, that plan is on hold until.
Yeah, I mean, today as we speak, it could be 100+%, right?
145%.
Right. So,
yeah,
you know,
so I'm not doing that.
That's a cash flow issue, not everything else,
it's
right?
It's a total cash flow issue. And, you know, I mean, I'm lucky 70% of my customers are in Canada. We did have 30% in the US market, but you know, my peers who are in the US who have $100,000 of orders showing up at the port and who have to show up with $145,000 check are shit out of luck. They're done. Yeah. You know, so I feel for retailers in the US who are facing like this, because it is literally putting them out of business.
Well, for the small and indie retailer, it's a death sentence, right? So the big guys can figure a way around it, and they'll, you know, put the force back on their vendor, or, you know,
and there's lots of people who are like, you know,
and they have the
committing fraud, right? Because they're trying desperately to stay in business. Like I
relabel it in some other town and all that stuff.
You know, so there's all of this sort of stuff going on. I'm just like, I just don't want or need any part of that. And
talk about complexity, right? It's complex enough that they're all doing all those shenanigans. So now you've got this, I don't know how long it's going to last. Maybe it gets resolved tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe not for years, but now you got to figure out your path forward. How are you thinking about growth?
Well, you know, obviously we had a certain amount of marketing budget that was dedicated to the US market. And so we're, you know, refocusing that back into Canada. and back into things like, okay, maybe it's not about digital ads, maybe that spend, and that's what we're looking at right now, is into pop-ups and some more of these in-person experiences, especially out east, where we know we've still got lots of opportunity to grow and where we have a huge customer base already. So we're exploring those kinds of opportunities right now. And then the other part of it is, I'm actually in talks with some folks from Europe about bringing the brand over to Europe right now. Which is actually really exciting.
Lots of professional women there. Lots of professional women everywhere. Really.
And these guys have got, a lot of depth in the market there. And they are like, we think your brand would do really well here. So, we're in some conversations about what that would look like. Would
you consider wholesale in Canada or the
I would consider wholesale. We could do wholesale. I have some concerns with wholesale, namely, I think for us, sort of the presentation of the whole package is so important, right? Because it's not just about this one piece or that piece. It's about, we just dropped again, like the whole collection in Orchid, right? And so it's about women finding this collection and capsule that then can be deployed in like all of these different ways, right? And we make sure then like the Orchid goes really well with this color, that goes with this color that you already have. And then we show them how to mix and match everything. So we're really focused on pulling, this sort of holistic approach. And so I worry a bit. So I'm not saying no to wholesale, but I worry that gets lost in that the story of the brand can get lost if we've got something that's, not
off the rack or generic.
And so, so when we talk to, people right now, it's actually about our brand actually shows up really beautifully in a retail environment, because of the fact that it's all color coordinated. So in the same way, I don't know if you go into an Aloe yoga store right now, right? Like you've just got, they do the brown drop and it's stunning and it's mixed in with the black that they've already got. And then they've got like a different color over here. And it's just, I think what happens is it makes it so accessible for the customer to understand, right? She doesn't have to go through this whole styling process of like, what's going to go together? I don't know how to pull this together. It's like, here, it's done for you. It makes sense. And I think it really resonates when we get into that space. The other thing is we notice that our AOV in person is just so much higher than online.
That makes a lot. I mean, you've got a really clear understanding as I reflect on what we've been talking about is the table stakes versus the differentiators, right? It's a crowded market, but you've found these differentiating elements. Listen, it's been a great, congratulations on all your success. Where can folks go to learn more about your brand if they're listening and want to purchase or get in touch with you and talk about opportunities? Where do they go?
I'm Emma at SophieGrace.ca and the brand is SophieGrace.ca.
Fantastic. Are you a LinkedIn person? I see you every now and then on LinkedIn.
I am on LinkedIn. So I think what the hell am I on LinkedIn? I think am I Emma May or am I Emma Grace May? I have 3 first names, Michael. So it's always,
we'll find you. I'll put a link. I'll put a link in the show notes so people go to the right place.
Okay. I think it is. Oh, it's Emma May. It is Emma May, founder of Sophie Grace. Yeah.
There you go. Well, Emma, it's such a treat to catch up. Congratulations, first of all, on all your success. And I wish you much continued success and look forward to continuing to follow your trajectory. And thanks for taking the time to talk to me and be on the Voice of Retail podcast.
Thanks for reaching out again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Voice of Retail. If you haven't already, follow on your favorite podcast platform so new episodes will land automatically each week. And be sure and check out my other retail industry media properties, the Remarkable Retail Podcast with Steve Dennis and the Global E-Commerce Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, Senior Retail Advisor, Keynote Speaker. If you want more content or chat, follow me on LinkedIn. Safe travels, everyone.